With the Terrance Crawford versus Canelo Alvarez fight coming up, the whole question surrounding this fight is, how is Bud going to do up at 168 pounds? Is he going to be too small? Is Canelo going to bulldoze right through him just like he does everybody else? Well, I think that this is a bit of an interesting fight on paper. At least stylistically, I think that Bud Crawford is the more technical, more well-rounded boxer compared to Canelo, especially ever since Canelo's moved up to 168 pounds, where, let's be honest, a lot of the stuff that used to make him such a great fighter has been kind of limited, like specifically within his footwork and within his defense. A lot of times you see Canelo kind of march forward, bulldog his way forward, throw like two jabs, and then throw like a right hook to the head or body, a big looping punch. Double jab, right hook. Double jab, right hook. Step in, big left hook. He doesn't really throw a 1, 2, 3, boom, and then avoids the punches off the center line. Like, he moves his head still in increments, but he relies more on his high guard to deflect the incoming shots. Now, because of Canelo's height, he generally is the fighter that has to be the one marching forward. He's pretty much been shorter than almost every single person he's fought at 168 pounds. And even though Crawford is, like, slightly taller than Canelo, I don't think that the height or the reach is going to make too much of a difference here, right? Like, Canelo's fought Callum Smith, probably the tallest super middleweight, at least in recent memory. He fought guys like Caleb Plant, moved up to 175 to fight Dimitri Bivol. And I'm not talking about in terms of overall size and structure to their bodies. It's more about the actual height and reach. Canelo's used to fighting taller guys. And even though Crawford's got a slight height advantage, a slight reach advantage, we're not too concerned about that going into this fight. Canelo's dealt with all that. It's more, can Crawford take the power of someone like Canelo Alvarez? And I'm not trying to take anything away from Canelo. He does have a lot of power in his punches. However, generally speaking, a lot of his shots tend to be, I don't want to say telegraphed, because he is a very fast fighter, but I think that a lot of what he does is extremely obvious because he does the same thing every single fight. And Terrance Crawford is one of the better pure boxers that someone like Canelo has fought. However, I kind of wonder if Terrance Crawford is going to get in the ring and make a business decision and say, you know what, I don't want to get knocked out. I don't want to become a meme, a gif, all over social media and embarrassed. I'd rather lose a decision, and in the moment, it's a bit embarrassing. But no one's going to say, hey, this guy got knocked out brutally, ha ha ha. It said, hey, I went 12 rounds with Canelo. I jumped up 2 weight classes. I tried to be one of the greatest of all time, and unfortunately didn't play out, but I only lost a decision. I still went 12 rounds. Is Crawford going to come in on that angle? Now, I don't think he would do something like that. I think Crawford is absolutely stubborn. I think he's going to go in there and try to win this fight. But as a result, he might get flatlined like Amir Khan did. And to be honest with you, I kind of wish that the Canelo that fought guys like Amir Khan, when he was fighting at 154, when he was fighting Triple G at 160 pounds, where he was a lot more fluid with his footwork, a lot more fluid with his head movement. I want to see that version of Canelo come back, because I think Terrance Bud Crawford's biggest chance to win this fight lies within his footwork. I think if he can move around the ring, stick and move, if he kind of employed William Skull's game plan, but only he adds in more volume striking. Because I have this opinion about that fight that I think William Skull could have taken it if he had thrown more shots. If he had stuck out the jab a bit more in those rounds, he might have been able to take some of those rounds, because a lot of those rounds were there for the taking. He just didn't want to take them. And I think that if Terrance Crawford took the same approach, but instead he actually threw a bit more volume, I do think that he could absolutely win on points. He's not knocking out Canelo. I don't even think he's going to rock or drop Canelo. Let's get that talk out of the way right off the hop. He is not dropping Canelo. However, I do believe that he could potentially sting Canelo with some shots. If he gets into the southpaw stance, he tries to take that outside foot, really utilize his jab. Because a lot of what Canelo does comes in where he kind of tends to come at you in a straight line. Double jab, big right hook, like I mentioned before. But if Terrance Crawford's able to move out on angles, potentially stick that jab in Canelo's face, use that 4-inch reach advantage, where I said it might not matter too much, and generally it doesn't matter, because a lot of Canelo's opponents aren't able to utilize that reach properly when they move back on the back foot. But there's a difference that I don't think Crawford is going to be as afraid of Canelo's power moving on the back foot like other fighters have, right? You take a look at Anger Belenga, right? That guy just stuck on the back foot for 12 rounds and didn't really want to engage too much. He was so respectful and fearful of Canelo that he didn't want to engage. Think of guys like Callum Smith, who tore their bicep fighting this guy. Look at William Skull. He wanted nothing to do with that power whatsoever. Like, Canelo does hit hard, but I think if you're able to predict and intercept Canelo, I think there's opportunities there. Straight punches beat looping punches. And if Crawford's able to time a really good 1-2, get a feeling for Canelo's entries, and time a big 1-2, I think he could actually sting and cause some damage to Canelo. But like I said, I don't think he's going to drop Canelo. He essentially has to fight perfectly for 12 rounds. Not get dropped, not get rocked at any point. He doesn't want to feel the power of Canelo. Because once he does, that's where he might make a decision to just survive against Canelo, like a lot of other fighters tend to do. Now, for those of you who are going to be saying that you think Bud wins the fight, here's the question I want to ask for you. Why is it that Bud didn't take any fights at 160 or 168 and try to get used to the weight class before jumping straight into Canelo? Age? Maybe. I mean, Crawford is getting up there. He's, 37, 38 years old now? Yeah, he's not a young man anymore. He's not even as young as he was when he fought Errol Spence. But I don't think that age is necessarily going to play a factor here, because Canelo, even though he's only 34, 35 years old, I believe, he's old in terms of fighting years. He's been fighting a lot more than Terrance Crawford. Terrance Crawford has not fought that much. He's not a very active fighter, generally speaking. And Canelo fights twice a year, every year. That's kind of been his thing. And Canelo has taken a lot of fights in his career, like I've mentioned before. It's clear that he's not in his prime anymore, in my opinion at least. I don't think this is a prime Canelo. But you can also argue that Bud's last fight, he wasn't in his prime either. You can argue that, that Errol Spence fight was prime Bud, but that same fight against Madrimov, or a year later where he fights Madrimov, it just isn't the same Bud. Now, he did move up a weight class for that fight, and now he's jumping up an extra 2 weight classes, but let's not get it mistaken. Bud is not a well-established 154-pound fighter. He fought one fight there and fought a close decision with Madrimov. Madrimov's a good fighter, but he's not on the level of Canelo. He's very untested in comparison to Canelo, so I think that this fight has a lot of question marks. I think Canelo's going to win. I think the size is going to play too much of a factor. I think Bud's only chance, he has to essentially be perfect for 12 rounds and win a decision. He's not going to knock him out. He's got to get the thought out of his head that he could knock out Canelo. And the problem is that a lot of fighters fight with their egos, and that could absolutely get him in trouble there. If he's thinking, oh, I'm going to be the first fighter to drop Canelo. I'm going to be the first fighter to really sting Canelo. I'm going to be the first fighter to knock out Canelo. That's where he's going to get himself into some serious trouble, because Crawford, even though he hits hard against 147-pounders. He was not even able to hurt Madrimov at 154 pounds. What makes you think he's going to hurt Canelo at 168 pounds? He's going to have to outbox him from start to finish. But here's what I will say. I do seriously respect Crawford for jumping up and taking this fight, because a lot of fighters are scared to lose their O. And even though I do think that Crawford's going to lose his O in this fight, I think he's going to gain a lot of respect from the fans. And I don't want to hear the excuse that he was too small, right? He's choosing to jump up in weight and take this fight. So let's not get it mistaken. But I don't think Crawford is looking for an excuse either. I don't think he's looking for an excuse to be like, well, I jumped up 2 weight classes, right? Oh, I have this excuse and that excuse. Even though I think if he were to lose, he wouldn't like it. You could tell Crawford's a very competitive person generally. I still think that he would probably try to take his licks like a man. At least I hope so. So let me know what you guys think of this fight down in the comments below. This is interesting, but at the same time, I'm also I think this is just going to be another Canelo win. I think Bud's going to be too overpowered. I think he's going to get hurt and dropped for the first time in his career. And he's going to be put into a position where he doesn't hit harder than his opponent for the first time in his career. At least I don't think Crawford's been dropped. If he has, let me know, but I haven't seen him get dropped. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to leave a thumbs up, make sure to subscribe, and let me know your guys' predictions down in the comments below.